Hello and welcome to the Peroxcyde guide for Shadow Lord Iskar on Mythic difficulty. For this encounter you want to bring 2 tanks, 4 to 5 healers and the rest DPS. For this fight I highly recommend you get the add-on called Exorcist Rituals. It will help you pass the Eye of Anzu around very quickly. There are a few things that change from normal or heroic to Mythic difficulty. On Mythic difficulty, Iskar will perform the ability called Shadow Riposte. If you control the Eye of Anzu, Iskar will try to knock it away from you. The way you deal with this mechanic is to throw the eye while he's performing Shadow Riposte to prevent losing it. If he knocks it away, just make sure you pick it up ASAP. The other thing that happens is Chains of Despair. After Iskar transitions, he leaves a clone behind him which is called Phantasmal Resonance. The clone performs the ability Chains of Despair. Make sure you spread before he casts this ability. It links pairs together with dark bindings. The Eye of Anzu enables you to see who you're connected with. Once you see who you're connected with, run to that player. If you run to the wrong player, you will explode. One thing you can do to avoid this ability completely is to single target the clone Phantasmal Resonance and burst it down before he casts the ability Dark Bindings, so you completely avoid this mechanic. If you plan to do this, which is something I highly recommend, make sure you save up your DPS cooldowns, rings, stack up resources before he spawns so you have as much single target damage as you can to kill him before he performs this ability. One more thing I'm going to add for Mythic difficulty is that if you get Eye of Anzu, you will get the debuff called Radiance of Anzu. It inflicts fire damage and lasts through the entire fight. Also, it doesn't do a lot of damage, so you got nothing to worry about. I also recommend you have a Warlock that you keep an eye on, unless you have to deal with the mechanics, then you pass it around according to the abilities. Those are the main things that change from normal or heroic to Mythic difficulty. Now let's go through the entire fight. Make sure you try to be in the middle of the room through the entire fight, range further behind, so if you get targeted by Fell Incarnation does fire damage, you can just stand still, pop a defensive cooldown and tell a healer to heal you up to save as much space as you can. Or if that's not an option, make sure you kite it to the side so you make sure that the beam doesn't block anyone. The other ability Iskar does is called Fell Chakram. It targets 3 players and those 3 players need to get out of the group. If you get targeted by this, just run out, and what we did was we had 3 spots so players knew where to go. It always targeted 1 tank, 1 ranged and 1 melee, so people were assigned to their spots accordingly. Iskar performs another ability which is called Phantasmal Winds. It targets multiple players with this debuff and tries to push them off the cliff. The way you deal with this is to pass the Eye of Anzu around very quickly. This is where Exorcist is very useful, since you can just click on that player, okay, this player needs it, and you're done with that. The other ability Iskar does is called Phantasmal Wounds. It wounds the players, it deals shadow damage to them, and if they're healed past 90% they lose the debuff, so the idea is so you heal those players up past 90, okay, done with the debuff, great. The last ability Iskar does is called Shadow Riposte. If you control the Eye of Anzu, Iskar will try to knock that eye away from you. Make sure you pass it, throw it to another player while he's performing this ability, so you make sure you don't lose the eye. On the transitions, you get extra adds. One of those adds is Phantasmal Resonance. He should be your #1 priority. Make sure you single target DPS him down. It casts Chains of Despair and it links 3 players, 3 pairs of 2 players. I recommend you just save up DPS cooldowns and avoid this ability completely by bursting Phantasmal Resonance. Another add, when you have Shadowfell Warden up, he performs the ability called Fell Conduit. It inflicts nature damage, targets up to 5 players in total. It is interruptible, but only if you control the Eye of Anzu. So when you have one of those adds up, I highly recommend you put the Eye of Anzu on a healer, Shaman for example, so he can dispel the fell bombs while that's happening, and on top of that he can interrupt the Shadowfell Warden. I also recommend that you make a macro for it, so you don't have to worry about targeting, so you're all good set. Another ad that appears is Foul Raven. It does an ability called Phantasmal Corruption. It infects his target, which is a tank, causing them to explode, inflicting fire damage, and to anyone nearby him on top of that, so it increases the fire damage they take by 100% for 10 seconds. If you do hold Eye of Anzu, you're immune to this, so the idea is that you get the eye while you're tanking the Foul Raven. The other ad that also appears is called Corrupted Priest of Tarok. It performs Phantasmal Obliteration, it puts Phantasmal Bombs on multiple players, and that's the time to put the Eye of Anzu on the healers that can dispel, and once you dispel one player, all the bombs will get dispelled. If the bombs detonate, they will deal fire damage to them and to all nearby players. In case you see a player holding the Eye of Anzu that's not a healer and that he is a potato player, make sure you spread and prevent wiping the raid. However, these bombs should never go off. The last ad that spawns are Illusionary Outcasts. They don't have any abilities, but they still perform the melee attacks, so thanks, you just pick them up. This was my guide for Shadow Lord Iskar on Mythic difficulty. I hope you liked the video. If you did, let me know down in the comment section below. Subscribe. If you want to check any of the other guides, just click the annotations. I also stream on Twitch, so feel free to follow me and watch me in action. If you want to check the description, I also have some weak auras in there, so you can copy them if you want. That's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.